Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cabaret Hotspots. So today, I'd be remiss if I say that, I'm pretending like I don't know this guy. I've been working with this guy for 25 years, and he is an amazing musical director, arranger, teacher, pianist unto himself. I think he's a great singer, although he would debate that with me, but everybody who hears him thinks he's a great singer. And he's a dear, dear friend. So please welcome Mr. Gregory Toroian. Hi, Greg. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Listen, I know how busy you are, and you're getting ready to go back into the studio. Tell me how you're going to do that safely and what your plans are. And please tell us all about the classes that are coming up. You have some amazing classes that you're offering. So just let us know how and when this is all happening.
Well, it's happening actually tonight. And it's my piano bass drum class, which we just call PBD. And it's a 4-week class with a bass player the first 2 weeks, and then with a full trio with a drummer the last 2 weeks. And I'm limiting the enrollment per class to 4 participants right now. And there's plenty of room in my studio for all of us to social distance. Everybody but the singer will keep their mask on. I have a plexiglass, like a foot diameter plexiglass
Shield type thing?
field that fits right on the microphone. So anything the singer is, will be caught by that. Each singer will have their own mic screen, their own personal mic screen that they will just keep as their own independent mic screen. We'll wipe down the mic and the mic stand and the plexiglass in between every singer. We'll open the window and have a fan for some ventilation. So I think we have it covered. I mean, I've consulted with medical personnel. This isn't just what I came up with alone. So I think we're good.
In addition to this class, you also teach jazz phrasing, you do scat, you do group. Tell us about some of the other classes you're teaching and which ones are up.
Well,
coming
this is
coming
the only
up.
one. This is the only one that's up right now, and I will start to resume others little by little. In fact, there's going to be two sections of this class: one afternoon class and one evening class of the PBD in July. So I'm guessing little by little, more and more people will feel comfortable to come back. Whenever they do is fine. If somebody's not completely comfortable, no problem. They should be. So it'll be, I'll start to offer, I have a myriad of other classes and lots of other ideas that I've never implemented because I'm the only person in the company. But I have a phrasing class, and I have been doing that on Zoom for the past 3 months with full classes, and that's worked out great, and people have gotten a lot done. And so I'll start to bring back the jazz vocal class, the group harmony class, and I'd still, if possible, like to do my performance Christmas class at the end of the year, and if it's at all possible. So.
Oh, you have thunder over there. That's Gregory's son, Vinny, the puppy dog, for those of you who don't know. And I think it's there's a little bit of lightning happening over there, right? That excites him a little bit.
Yeah, maybe I'll mute for a second while you ask another question.
Okay, poor Vinny. So I just want to say that with these classes, I have taken them, and the piano, bass, and drums class is kind of cool because he changes up some of the musicians. So we have some of the best musicians in town doing these classes with Gregory: Tom Hubbard, Skip Ward, Dave Silliman, Ron Tierno, and others, Rit Hen, Sadi Zane. And sometimes they bring in an electric guitar. Is that correct, Gregory? You have like 1 week where you do electric or
electric bass.
Electric bass.
Right. So we
Okay.
can do more contemporary things if you want to.
Okay.
It's a very It's thank you for saying things. It's a very relaxed environment. Almost.
That's on my end. I know it's coming over to me now.
That was.
I told you these interviews are very organic.
it's really like a a well-organized open mic, but it's very casual and relaxed. There's no pressure, there's no curriculum to it, and we do the song any way the singer wants to, and then we maybe mess around with it and
Change
in
it up a
terms
little
of
bit.
time or
Yeah.
tempo or
Do singers bring their ideas? Like, are you encouraging them to bring their kind of arrangement ideas to you and then have the band test drive them, in other words, in the studio to see what works and what doesn't? Or
I'm fine with that. I mean, it's, I'm always fine with singers having, bringing something to the table. Sorry.
That's okay.
And if they don't, somebody in the band, it's not necessarily me. They all these guys are great, like you just said, and they all have great ideas too. So it doesn't matter to me, whoever comes up with an idea. You know what I mean?
I also have to say that I'm, each of the classes are different price range, but overall, when you divide it by 4, I'm just saying you cannot get 4 musicians in a room, in a studio, for the amount of money that each class is. Right. And now with only 4 people, you're going to be getting
three musicians.
But if you're going to, with 4 people in the class, I'm saying you're going to get what, 35 minutes on deck in the class. So, I mean, there's no way you could pay for that and go into a studio with what you're paying for these classes. So they're very, very cost effective as well. And I appreciate that as a singer.
Everybody actually gets 25 minutes on the clock, which is more than I think most classes do.
Yeah.
And I've played classes for 30 years, even before they were mine. If there's, a little side discussion happens, that's really a group discussion, I don't count that as part of somebody's time. So, I pay close attention to that. And then in the course of the class, somewhere in the middle there, we'll take a little break. And it's just, again, the timing of it is very specific. I'm very serious about that everybody gets the time they want and are allotted. And aside from that, it's just, relaxed. It's just almost like...
Now, are you also teaching people like preparing them, say, to go to a cast party where there's a trio and preparing them and trying to teach them how to count a band off and stuff like that? Is that something that happens in the class as well?
That is something that I'm paying, more attention to and trying to get people ready. My whole thing is really for singers to be as self-contained as they can, and the more prepared they are for things like you just brought up, then the easier time they're going to have in these open mics. It's really all about them. So
more comfortable they get,
the better they can communicate to the band, and they don't have to use musical terms. I know that can be intimidating, and we don't speak to each other that way either. Right. So they just have to try to describe it in whatever words they can, and the tempo, and find a key. And if they know the key already, that's great. And then, it's just easy for everybody. So,
now, throughout this COVID thing, I know, because I know you, I know how busy you've been. You've been continuing to teach. You've used Zoom. We've done sessions on Zoom. We've done sessions on Internet MIDI, which is pretty awesome because we can pretty much work in real time with each other, depending on what the Wi-Fi is doing and whatever. What else have you been doing? What have you learned about yourself, or what was a blessing in disguise with this COVID thing that happened with being quarantined?
I don't know. I guess it gave me time to think of other things to do. I mean, since none of us know what's going to happen next, I'm not too caught up in what's going to happen next. I'm really trying to just figure out what should we do right now. And because I already know what to do when we completely open up again.
Right,
so
right.
That'll be easy. So we just have to figure out how to, kind of, get through this tide. And, I mean, lots of musicians they don't even teach. So they've just been flat.
A lot of work. Yeah, it's been horrible for a lot of people. I mean, just no work, no income. So I'm sure you're very grateful for having had that work throughout.
For having some, yeah. I mean, I have not, of course, replaced all my work because, I've maybe recovered a third of it, but all of our shows, as you know, some of ours, just immediately got canceled or soon. And as it turns out, I've been really lucky this year and had a lot of things ready to go. So, we'll all recover. We'll come back, and it's not going to happen soon. It might not even really happen this year all the way back, but little by little, and we'll figure it out.
Well, right now, I should say that you and I are planning on and hoping that Pangea will be somewhat open for some degree of the jazz open mic thing that we do every month. So keep an eye out for that, because Greg and I would love to have you come back, and we will do it under the same safe parameters that Gregory is doing his work in his studio. So if not August, September, we'll see how the tide goes and how these phases go and whether or not there's a setback. I'm very excited to get back to making music with you. I'm sure that's the biggest thing. You and the guys have probably missed each other so much, and just making music, right?
That really is the biggest thing. And even, of course, we all need to, start to pay our Amex bills again. But
that too.
But we're just, like singers love to sing. I mean, but musicians, especially those of us that do it for a living, frankly, I mean, we are alive to play. That's why we breathe, most of us, and especially together.
Yeah. Well, you've built like a little family. I mean, I know the cluster of musicians that you work with, and all of them have played for you and I in one of our shows, and it really becomes like a brotherhood and a family of you guys. And there's a communication that happens. Talk about what that kind of, you lift your head up and you look at somebody and they just get it. It's like having a dance partner. How does that develop amongst musicians?
Well, some of it doesn't. Some of it develops, over a little time playing together, and some of it is just, if everybody is really already that instinctual, it can really happen almost immediately. Just like having chemistry in another kind of relationship in your life. Do you know what I mean? Like you and I have.
Right,
in our musical partnership. And so, some things take a little time to cultivate, and other things happen with, immediately, really. And everybody just seems to, know what's going to happen next, or everybody's really involved in the moment and listening well, and I'll do the same thing. I mean, if the bass player plays a different chord, I may go with them. If I'm really adamant about my chord, I'll play mine louder. But they have their ideas are just as good as mine, so I defer to them often.
Where can someone sign up for your classes? I know that you have a presence on Facebook and you send out notices on Facebook, but you have a website, right? And
I do have a
your
website.
Classes listed there? Or?
Well, I really need to update it, and I've been remiss on that, and that's something I need to get somebody to help me with, and I plan on doing that in the next few weeks. But I do have a website, GregoryToroian.com, I guess.
Okay.
I don't even know it. Well,
I'll put up underneath this interview, I'll put up your classes. You'll send me that list, and I'll put them up and a link and everything underneath this interview on Cabaret Hotspots. With pleasure. No, that's part of what I wanted to do this for. Now, the last question I want to ask you is, have you had a mentor, someone in your life that gave you some sage advice that you either pass on or that you have kept close to your heart and tried to follow as a musician or as a human being? I mean, just something that has formed who you are as a human being or musician that came from somebody else that cared about you.
Well, my biggest influence is my father, and he was a great trumpet player and was always supportive. This whole piano playing thing for me is really an accident. I planned on being something else, and I started college that way, which is when I started to play. And I woke up one day and knew the piano was it. I had just played a few months.
But that was pretty late, right? It wasn't like you weren't you weren't a kid. I'm saying you weren't 13 or 14.
No, I was 18. Okay. So I wish I'd have had another 10 years under my belt. But anyway, lucky for me, but my parents were always, right on board with that. And they were always unlike, I don't think this is cultivated much in our society, really. They encouraged me to follow my instincts and my gut. And so that's what I am. So I have a certain amount of knowledge, but I just follow my heart and I let that lead the way. And it really has rarely led me astray. So I'm going to keep doing it that way. And people have often asked me, you know, if I come up with an idea, you know, how do you do that? How do you come up with these things? I'm like, I haven't the slightest idea. I'm not going to start thinking about it now. You know,
It just comes from the heart.
it just comes from somewhere. Thanks, you know, thankful for it. You know, I'm never seem to really be at a loss for ideas. You know,
I always marvel at the fact that, you know, three singers will bring you the same song and you're like, oh dear, you know, and somehow you make them unique and individual to each of us. So I've always appreciated that.
Well, it always starts with the singer.
Right.
You know, it's, you know, of course, I guess I'm ultimately the arranger, but I'd rather it not be about me. And you always come with lots of ideas of your own. And, you know,
but what I love is with you, what I love with you is that, you know, because I'm this kind of cabaret jazz girl, I kind of straddle, you know, jazzy styling with cabaret. I'm very lyric driven. And you as a jazz musician are so sensitive to the lyric, which isn't always the case. Really good jazz musicians know every single lyric ever written as they play, but it's not always the case. So speak to what lyrics mean to you as a musician and how that informs your playing.
Well, it's all about the lyric. If somebody is singing a song to me, it's all about the lyric. And I am totally a jazz person. You know, not that that's all I play, but those are my roots. And if we're not going to pay primary attention to the lyric, then you might as well just scat. I believe that everything else grows from paying attention to the lyric, and the music will just fall into place. The phrasing will fall into place. Even melodic changes will happen naturally and organically. Everything will just happen organically, including the arrangement. That's why this is not a big, you know, this is never a chore for me. It just happens. It's not effort.
So I just want to mention that Gregory is featured in this month's Cabaret Scenes. There's a beautiful article written about him that gives more information on who this man is. You won't know who this man is until you hear him play, because so much of his heart and who he is comes out through his hands. Let me just say that. Can I ask a favor? Would you just put your puppy dog on screen for us so we can all see?
Oh, sure.
See Vinny?
Come here. Vinny.
This is my nephew.
Hold
we
on.
call him Vinny Chunky Butt. We call him Vinny Goobats. He is just the most precious dog. And when he's in the studio and I'm rehearsing with Gregory and I happen to be there, he comes and sits on my feet. Hello, my Vinny. There's my puppy.
And he just got another gig.
He did. Oh yeah, he's actually kind of famous, right?
For the company store.
Oh, good. We'll look forward to that.
He's gonna wear pajamas.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled with that. Gregory, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And it was really nice for me to be able to let people get to know who you are, because I do know who you are, and I'm really happy to spend this time with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.